Fred, you and I have talked about air quotes hazing, which I want to get into a little bit because we talked about it. What your football team did was very light hazing. But before we get into what occurred in the 98 team in the mid 90s, as far as hazing, what is over the line? Because you have Northwestern who has gone from a program that, even though he was not a great coach, he was 111 last year, but he was their guy. He had been there for like 11 years, and Pat Fitzgerald wasn't going anywhere. And then boom, he's suspended. And then boom, he's fired. What crosses the line in hazing?
Everything they did crosses the line in hazing. What you mean? Everything they did crosses the line in hazing. Hey, man, I'm being honest with you when I say this. I couldn't have went to Northwestern because I'd have lasted one day. They would have had my mom come pick me up immediately.
Yeah, there was all kinds of weird sexual innuendo stuff.
Because the first person who would have came at me with that situation, it would have been a bad day for them. I promise you that. That's not something that, we've had this conversation as, football guys, former guys, and we're sitting there like, who stayed? Why would you even stay at a school like that? They would have never had a football team. My signing class in 95, you would have never not one of our guys would have stayed. Not one. We've had that conversation. No, not one guy would have stayed. I mean, it literally would have it'd have been the freshman class against everybody else, pretty much. Because that wouldn't have worked for us.
No, and how does that, and I don't really want to get into the specifics of it, but whose job is it to police that? Because you guys did so much policing on your own, but at some point the head coach is responsible, right?
Yeah, you're responsible for that. You know what's going on. You know things that are happening on your, in your locker rooms. If you don't, you shouldn't even be the head coach if that's the case. How do you not know the beat of what's going on in your locker room? You mean to tell me not one player ever came up to the coach and said, hey, man, they tried to get me to do such and such? No. I mean, our thing was we threw guys in the cold tub.
Right. So I want you to get to that. Yeah. So go ahead. And so cold tub to ice bath.
And when you're a freshman, most guys had, back then we hadn't even been in the cold tub. We didn't know what a cold tub was. So they, but now you understand that the cold tub actually helps revive your body from pain and all that other stuff. So it was literally, I remember coming into the locker room and I got stopped at the door. Actually, I'm walking into the complex after practice and Bubba Miller, I'm going to tell the full story, walks up to me and he's coming towards me. He's about 10 yards from me. And he points at me and he says, you go willingly or you go by force? And I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He was like, if you make me run, it's going to be bad for you. And I just stopped. I was like, man, what is going on? He said, you're going in the cold tub. So I just took my helmet off, took my shoulder pads off, and I just gave myself up. He picks me up and throws me over his shoulder, a few slaps on the butt on the way in, and he tosses me in the cold tub. I actually sat there for a minute because it felt great.
If once you get used to ice baths, it's the best recuperation. When I did CrossFit, which I'm not comparing, it's the best recuperation you can do, but it takes a couple times to get used to.
Oh yeah, but it's a lot of, you got to go through the gauntlet. They're gonna smack your butt and those type of things. But hey man, it's the game. It wasn't trying to hurt nobody or harm anyone. But like if they had to wrestle you to the ground to take you back, it probably seemed a little different. But that cold tub actually felt good after you went in it. I mean, that was part of our hazing. But you had to go in the cold tub. Anybody who was a new coach or you got a promotion as a coach or a freshman or a guy who transfers in. If this your first year with us, you're going in the cold tub. And we just get to pick you up and throw you in the water. That's it.
The weirdest part about it too is, okay, so I want to describe it a little bit. So basically it was called running at Northwestern and they would dry hump them. I never thought I would say that.
No.
Okay.
Not going to work.
No, not going to work. In a dark locker room. Actually, I've heard of worse at the high school level, and I almost reported it, but it's disgusting. And I don't want to get into it. But so a player would be restrained, and then they'd have these purge-like masks, and then they'd dry humping is just weird. But the other weird part about that was almost as weird as that is they would do it around the holidays. So they would have Runsgiving and Runsmas around Thanksgiving and Christmas. If you're going to haze somebody just like the ice tub thing, you get that out of the way and you make sure they're a part of the team for their freshman season. I mean, dragging on to Thanksgiving and Christmas, that's bizarre.
You know, the one thing I appreciate with Coach Foreman was that they saw it. Some of the coaches would walk in the locker room to make sure it wasn't out of hand. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when it was done, Coach Foreman, okay, everybody's gone in. It's over. That's it. And then he walks out of the locker room. You know what I mean? Or whoever the coach was that was in that locker room, hey, that's it. We're done. And it was fun funny because people were like, man, that water was cold, you know? And it was just, you kind of knew you were part of the team, and that's your initiation. Okay, you go in the cold tub. And that was it. We're not trying to beat up our teammates. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean, why would I want to beat up my team? I don't want to be your team if you tried to beat me up. All I'm thinking about at that point is trying to get you back.
Yeah.
So,
and Caleb, I want you to jump in here, but Mr. Jones said, do people pee in the cold tub?
No. If they did, let me tell you something.
Well, it's physically impossible because my little friend runs somewhere out west because it is so cold you cannot possibly urinate. I mean, it is, yeah, let's just say I'm not real proud of myself when I'm in the ice tub and I, try to warm up as soon as possible before somebody perhaps sees my little buddy who's
and if somebody did that and then put somebody in the cold tub, I promise you that person right there would not be a part of our team no more. I think most of the 10 guys on the team would have got on him.
Yeah,
it would have really turned into a hazing event.
Yeah, that's gross and difficult to do if you've ever tried to.
Yeah, it would really turn into a hazing.
What's wrong with my bladder and other things? Go ahead, Caleb. Would you like to talk about your private parts?
No, I would not.
Go right ahead.
That's hilarious.
I would let's talk about hookers. I was thinking about this. I'm like, it's funny, Fred. You were at Tennessee when the movie The Titanic came out, and I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe Tennessee's football team, y'all could have survived the Titanic because y'all be handling the cold ice tubs.
We didn't stay on there that long, though.
By the way,
no, Caleb, we didn't stay on there that long. No.
Yeah, and by the way, that chick could have made room for Leonardo DiCaprio on that piece of wood. There was room. She just let him die and drop to the bottom of the sea. That was wrong.
She also got back on the boat, which, by the way, and just lessons in emergencies. I've talked to emergency responders. If you're safe, don't run back into danger. You make everybody else's job hard when you do that. Okay, like if you're safe, stay safe.
She was definitely, as Rocky Top Tom says,
that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah. People like to. I cover fire sports where people like to run in to try to save their family member, and the firefighters are like, "We were going to save them, but now we have to save you and them, which makes it harder." And so it's like
that depends. Sometimes it's hard to say. My mom's sitting up there in the window and no one's moving. I don't know if I'm not going. I don't know if I'm just gonna stand there and just wait for them to go. Well, you're either gonna move when I tell you to move, or I'm gonna move for you.